What are the best and worst places to live in the One Piece universe before the Straw Hats showed up? This journey to find the One Piece has been mad long, and it'd be an understatement to say we've come across some strange settings and some gruesome backstories. I mean, let's be honest, in the One Piece universe, these people are getting hoed constantly, daily, hourly. It's kinda hard to find a place you'd wanna live. Being forced to ugly smile in a beautiful country like Wano? Or would you really be better off in a desolate wasteland ready to detonate at any moment like Punk Hazard? And I know no one's gonna be interested in the Sky People anarchist in Skypiea. So here at the Bread Show, I dug through all the chaos and found 3 places you might actually survive in, and 3 places where you'd be lucky to last 37 days max. And again, specifically, before the Straw Hats came in and cleaned up everything. You know, just to keep it fair and realistic. I made sure to grab places from the Blues, Grand Line, and the New World, just for some diversity. And I also managed to wrap in a few places in between those 3 things. I'll save my honorable mentions for both categories at the end, but be sure to give me your worst and best places to live in the One Piece universe. Hey, what's up, y'all? It's
Welcome to
the Bread Show, a place where we give our anime and gaming opinions while doing a little bit of animated and gaming ourselves. In one video that I was super excited to make all while I was watching One Piece, looking at all the beautiful settings and everything, is what are the 3 best and 3 worst places to live. One Piece settings are beautiful, but Oda does a good job of hiding ugliness under visual beauty, and that's where the story really resides. So we gonna pull back the covers a little bit and have a fun discussion about this because I think it'd be super realistic. Please, please, please like the video. It would help the channel out a lot. And hopefully by the end of this, I can convince you to hit that subscribe button. We almost at 10K, so, you know, help a brother out. We might be at 10K at the time of this video. I don't know. 10K special on the way. Let's get straight into this. Let's start off with a positive and we'll switch back and forth between the best and then worst from the rest of this video. Starting out with Logtown. Logtown seems like it would really be cool. It's right before the Grand Line, so it's definitely gonna be a high traffic area. Not just for pirates, but also for Marines and traders. We've seen it be the resting place for Buggy and the Straw Hats, 2 notorious pirate groups that ended up becoming way more notorious than they were at that moment. But then it's also a hub for Marines like Smoker, and in the filler episodes, there were other Marines in Logtown. The reason why this place would be so great for a normal person to just live there is the goods and services of all of East Blue would be gathered right there. And to be honest with you, it all wouldn't just be coming from East Blue, it'd be coming from all around the world. It would be easy to start a business. It's a developed city, which is pretty rare for East Blue towns and cities. And it's a touristy town, rich in history. The epicenter of the town being a giant execution platform that towers over everybody might be, you know, a little bit of a downer. But all in all, tourists, pirates, traders, and Marines all would have an equal opportunity to thrive and survive in this town. Now, it wouldn't be like the safest, it wouldn't be the cleanest, you know, but as you'll see, in terms of One Piece places to live, this is gonna be up there with the best. And let's face it, Marines, pirates, and traders, they're all like rock, paper, scissors. They balance each other out. They all need each other to survive. Logtown just wouldn't be for people looking to live quiet and peaceful lives. And now, let's get to one of the worst places to live. Let's start off a little light with Flevens. Yes, Flevens is light. Just to jog y'all memory a little bit, Flevens is a town that Law grew up in. And we found out all about his history in Dressrosa. The entire city was built around mining and exporting white lead, which was a toxic material. You would be a victim of the poisoning while you watch all of your loved ones be victims of the poisoning. The citizens were doctors. It was a regular town. They had great doctors there. They did not know that they were being poisoned. There was no cure. And when other nations started finding out about this white lead disease, they started treating the people from Flevens like animals because they thought the disease was contagious. They wouldn't even go near them or attempt to treat them. So if there was no cure, there was not gonna be a cure anyways. And the government knew it was poisonous, and they tried to cover it up in the most gruesome way. They put a quarantine lockdown on the town and nobody was allowed to leave. But they couldn't just let everybody die from this disease peacefully in their own quarantine dome. No, they sanctioned killing everyone in there. So, just to be clear, if you miraculously somehow managed to survive the disease, the genocide, and the fear of every other country in the world, you were left with a heaping helping of PTSD. i.e. Law. So yeah, the city was just hoed completely. Poisoned unknowingly, lied about it, then exterminated. And it wasn't even like in a humane way. They came in and shot the whole town up while wearing gas masks for a disease, mind you, that's not even contagious. The only way to get white lead disease is from white lead. And then they lit the town on fire for good measure. There was only one survivor, Law, who escaped, and the only way he was able to cure the disease was because he miraculously found a devil fruit, which is a miracle in one. But the second miracle on top of that was that the devil fruit had to do with curing diseases. And remember, he barely got the devil fruit. Corazon died for that. Law's sister was one of the first patient zeros to get white lead disease, and she was also one of the first ones to perish. Law went to the orphanage to get help from the nun, who gave him hope. The nun was there as a sign of hope for him and all the orphan kids that were with him. Then they killed his parents and the nuns and all the kids that were with her. Law had a reason to crash out. This is one of the worst places to live. Top 3 worst places to live, in my opinion. All right. Let's lighten the load a little bit. All right, no more sickness and genocide. Let's go straight to the future. Egghead, the super realistic island, has to be one of the best places to live. Even though it's not technically a place to live, I'd say it's one of the best places to live. It's called the Futuristic Island, and it's supposed to be 500 years in advance from the rest of the world. Now, just for reference, 500 years ago, Christopher Columbus found the IRL New World. 500 years ago, the printing press was invented. So half of the globe was literally found. And then there was an easier way to write down your thoughts and save them over time. And now we're watching One Piece and discussing it with an online community watching on phones and tablets and computers and all that. So yeah, 500 years of advancement is a lot of advancement. You probably start going crazy talking to the holograms and everything, but everything you could have ever wanted would be on this island. Like free food, I'd assume free housing and free healthcare. Holographic dinosaurs roam the streets in a climate-controlled superdome. You wouldn't need a job, you'd be protected by the world's best and most up-to-date pacifistas, and you'd be safe from pirates. And just as icing on the cake, you'd have access to the greatest library in the history of One Piece. The only care in the world you might have is watching out for Dr. Vegapunk's failed science experiments. Now, there's always downsides to these things, especially when it comes to the One Piece world. There wouldn't be any social events or gatherings or festivals or anything like that. Holidays would be pretty dead. It's not an actual town, and I'm not sure you'd bring your family there. And of course, the impending doom of the government trying to invade Egghead would be over my head, but I wouldn't know that at the time. Egghead is pretty much a fit for everyone, even if it's a ticking time bomb. That's the second best place to live, in my opinion. All right, now cut the BS, because we're taking a trip under the red line. We're going to Fishman Island. I'm gonna tell you, there's really only like 2 reasons you'd be hoed in Fishman Island, but there are 2 huge reasons. You'd be hoed from every angle, literally. Not only is it filled with mermaids and fishmen, and humans aren't around, a large portion of the population is extremely racist against humans, and the possibilities of their hate would be crazy. You'd never be trusted, always assumed to be a slave trader. But it's also underwater. There's not many places that you could possibly go. The fishman could easily kill you by drowning at any moment, especially with Horty and his other fish vigilantes just roaming around. They would mutilate you for fun, like actually for fun though, like to make a statement. And don't forget, even the weaker side of fishmen like Arlong are super genetically better than humans anyways. Horty's whole existence was hoeing humans, and if it wasn't hoeing humans, it was influencing fishmen to hoe other humans. I mean, he staged Queen Odahime's death to be done by a human, and it was done by him. Like, this guy was backwards and twisted, and you want him after you? Remember, a big part of the reason why they hate humans is because humans capture mermaids for slave auctions 1,000 feet up in Sabaody. Just for being a human, you'd be cooked immediately by the people there, and also the environment not being very friendly to humans regardless. But being surrounded by water isn't totally a bad thing. There's a fine line between love and hate. Being surrounded by water in Fishman Island would be horrible, but being surrounded by water in Water 7 would make it one of the best places, if not the #1 best place to live in the One Piece universe, and I'm gonna explain why. Ever since the crew stepped foot in Water 7, I knew that that was the most visually appealing place to me in One Piece. Sabaody Archipelago came real close. Egghead and Wano were beautiful, but I don't know if that was just the animation, but Water 7 was amazing to me. It also just makes opportunity-wise, no matter what job you have, there's a place for you in Water 7. There's a huge employer called Galley La that's running the whole thing. Engineer and construction paradise. And I would also imagine warehouse workers. Yeah, you'd be able to find a job and just live there easily. Sailors. And of course, there's always caveats, you know. The shipyard would attract pirates like the Straw Hats. But double but, CP9 just whooped everybody's ass, so you didn't have to worry about pirates. Nobody actually did. It was no problem to the citizens actually living there. The Frankie family was a legit criminal gang though. They stomped Usopp out. And there would be a little bit of classism in Water 7 because the people in the lower tier would be terrorized by the Frankie family. As a matter of fact, there were a lower tier, a mid tier, and then a high tier. The lower tier were not only susceptible to gangs like the Frankie family, but it was also susceptible to Aqua Lagoon. So I guess I'm specifically saying not the lower section of Water 7, but the higher sections of Water 7. And of course, there's a little bit of government corruption in the background, but you'd be hard pressed to find a place without that, especially in the One Piece world. But Cyberpole wasn't there to directly oppose the people of Water 7. They were just there for the blueprints to Pluton. You'd have great transportation though, sea trains and sea horses. And again, there's a place for everyone here. Craftsmen, sailors, merchants, tourists again, even people running for mayoral elections. All right, we started out this video on a good note, but that means that because of the way we structure the video, or I structure the video, we have to end on a bad note, which would be Dressrosa. I think Dressrosa is by far the worst place to live in the One Piece universe. Choosing to live in Dressrosa is like choosing to live in a psychological horror. Citizens who opposed Doflamingo were turned into living toys. And once they were transformed, they were erased from everyone's memories. Even their loved ones forgot them. These toys / people, real souls, were forced to work in servitude, working day and night, pretending to be happy. By the way, this is like the 37th case of slavery in One Piece. Like, Oda uses slavery a lot. But considering this whole adventure is about being free, I could see how slavery, which is the opposite of freedom, would narratively fit the story. Family and friends would eventually vanish without you recalling them, and you'd eventually vanish right with them. I don't know what's worse, being the primary or secondary victim to brainwashing, and then being a slave to a weapons dealer in an underground factory. And it gets way worse than this, like on 2 different levels. The second level, the world government turns a blind eye because Dofi is a warlord. Not only do they turn a blind eye, but they actively help keep him in power because he's a warlord. And not only is he a warlord, he's well connected to the Celestial Dragon. So they are actively helping him stay in power. And if you figured anything out, or you weren't smiling, you'd be turned into a toy. And that's one of the worst possible situations because no one would even begin to think about looking for you. And by the way, I still think Sugar's devil fruit was way overpowered. She basically got 3 devil fruits. She stayed a child, she turned people into toys, and made you forget. That's like all 3 separate ones. And the third level of how this is fucked up is the Corda Coliseum. Those fighters were not allowed to leave unless they won, and winning was very against the odds for them. They were trapped there underground, and a lot of people were there for most of their lives, only let out for a couple minutes for a chance at freedom or a chance at a devil fruit that they barely really had a chance at. And whenever they were let out, it was immediately into a life or death situation, battle royale style. You were forced to kill in there, even if you were the former king and his men. And they had a real jail mentality in there. Remember, Luffy got tricked to go into the basement where they nearly choked him out down there. And trust me, I do not believe that Luffy was their one and only victim that they did that to. And of course, there's some honorable mentions for some of the best places to live, like Zo. You'd be super isolated for better or for worse, and you'd be living on a elephant, which doesn't seem the most sanitary, but you'd generally be safe, and you'd just be praised for having skin, so that kind of works. There'd be constant earthquakes, and Zunisha would eventually have to pick up everything and move towards Joy Boy to help him out whenever he's doing his thing, but it'd still be a nice place to live. And then the Bratier is also a pretty nice place to live if you don't mind being a chef your whole life and also getting kicked every once in a while. There'll be pirates and marines that come in, and there'll be constant fights because there will be pirates and marines coming in, but you know, it'd still be a nice place to live. The boss of the place was a former pirate. And some nefarious places to live that I didn't even mention was Punk Hazard. Half hot, half cold. Horrible weather. I mean, your skin would be constantly swelling up. Your throat would be itching because of drastic changing of the weather constantly. You'd also die a gassy death if you didn't live in Caesar's lab. And even in Caesar's lab, people died a gassy death. And now that I think about it, now that we know Dr. Vegapunk and everything that was going on, it's kind of weird that Caesar was just squatting in there, doing inhumane drug experiments on giant children. And then of course, Jaya and Wano would be horrible to live because the Shogun was crazy, the Smile Fruits was crazy. Jaya would be a horrible place to live because a whole bunch of pirates with 100 million berry bounties would all gather there. I mean, even Luffy got stepped on in Jaya. What makes you think you're safe? And even if you were a tourist or a merchant or anything, you just be getting robbed constantly because they're pirates. It's kind of like in the name. So yeah, that is the whole video. The 3 best and worst places to live in One Piece. If you agree, let me know in the comments. If you disagree, let me know in the comments. Please leave a like on this video. It would help the channel out a lot. And hopefully by now, I convinced you to hit that subscribe button. Turn into the streams. And yeah, this was a great recording. I have to end it because this video is my first video in 4K. It's supposed to be. Definitely supposed to be. If it's not in 4K, cut this part out. But yeah, thank you for tuning in this long. Thank you for watching this long. If you watch this long, you are guaranteed to like all of my other videos. I got more One Piece coming. I got Free Ring coming. I got Don coming. Just let me analyze those, take it in. It's not as many episodes, so I want to take in every episode. And yeah, let's get straight to this. Peace out.
Welcome to the Grant Show. Take 2.